Hey all, we all know editing can be difficult, especially when you're first learning. So today we're going to cover the basics of editing in Davinci Resolve. We're going to use the free version. I'll make sure there's a description below for the free version as well, as it's free forever. But what we're going to cover today is how to do a basic edit, how to sync your audio, how to color correct, and how to export your audio as well. I'll also show you, of course, how to load your footage in, so you'll be able to get a full video at the end of this session. So let's get to it. All right, when you first open Davinci Resolve, you're going to click on New Project down the bottom right here. I'm going to call this one a test and go create. Once it's open, we're going to focus on the Edit tab and the Color tab and the Deliver tab. They're the three we're going to focus on today, so click on Edit. It's going to give you two windows. This first window here will be the preview window for the clips that you load in, and the window over here will be your preview window of everything that's on the timeline down below. So the first thing you need to do is you need to get some clips in there. So we're going to go File, and you can go Import, and go Import Media. And I have two files here. One's an audio file that was recorded separately, and one's the camera. Obviously hasn't been color corrected, and it's a video about some lenses I did recently. What you want to do is you want to hold Control and click on both of those files, and then right click and go Auto Sync Audio based on waveform. That will automatically sync two files together if you have audio on your original track as well, like camera audio, for instance. Once that's done, you can drag that into your first window. Now you've got a scroll bar here along the bottom. You can also play at half speed by using the arrow keys below, like this.
Let's review this little baby.
But in the meantime, you can just drag to where you want to go, and you can press the space bar to play, or you can press the bar here, the play button here.
Specific things, much more than your normal lenses on your normal camera.
So you can scroll that back. Now the arrow keys on your keyboard are great for those fine cuts, so you can get close, for instance.
Great. Another series of lenses I can't use anywhere but here.
So you can use your arrow keys to go back a little bit to the start of the audio, for instance, or forward. And we're going to cut this video right now. So just on the right here is the cut in and cut out. So we're going to cut this video at the start.
There's a reason for that. The reason is that these particular lenses do very specific things.
Now I want to cut it there, so I'll do cut out. And then we're going to drag it, so you're going to hold the left mouse click and you're going to hold it down and drag it into your timeline. Now if you press play on the space bar or play over here, it'll play in this window.
There's a reason for that. The reason is that these particular lenses do very specific things.
So if you want to create more cuts, you can go up here and select that window by clicking on it, and then you can drag across to where you want to be.
System. So your autofocus and everything, all your functionality on camera will.
So we're just going to cut it there for the sake of it. Scroll forward a little bit and cut it again. Then we're going to drag that down to here. So now when you play it, you get this.
Just do very specific things. Will not work except for your viewfinder.
So you can see that there's now two cuts down the bottom. That's essentially how you cut your audio on your video. Now that I've shown you how to cut some video, if you go to the timeline down the bottom, you can separate these so you can bring them under each other if you need to. You basically just, and how to do that is just left click and hold. You can move these things around. These are designed to snap in place. So I'll show you this for instance. So it'll just jump in place. See how it snaps in place? So it creates no gap. But you can also overlap them as well.
Specific things will not work except for your viewfinder.
If you want to do like a cut where your audio comes in before your video, for instance. Now if you need to separate your audio and video, you can right click on that file and you can unclick Link Clips. Now your audio and your video are separate tracks. They still snap in place if you want them to be, but they're separate tracks. If you want to select them again and link them again, you select by holding Control, left click and then left click. And then right click and go Link Clips, and they're linked again. So when you move them, they're together again. Now the other tab we're going to cover is called the Inspector tab. For instance, this one here, maybe because there's a cut like this,
will not work.
we don't really want to see the camera jump so much. So we may want to zoom that second clip a little bit. So you just basically left click and select it so it's red. Go up here to Inspector, click on Video, and you can see zoom. So put it at the start of the clip if you want, and you can zoom it to say 1.1 and press enter. Now when you go back and play it,
will not work except
it's jumping inwards.
Specific things will not work.
You can also do slow zoom. So if you put it at the start of the clip, press the little button here, it's called a keyframe button. Select that. Scroll to a point in the clip where you want to go larger, say here, and then go one, click on that and go 1.2 for instance. Now when you scroll back, it'll do this.
Lenses do very specific things. Will not work except for your viewfinder, because
obviously I'll make a mistake in that video, but anyway.
Will not work except for your viewfinder.
And you can see it's a slow zoom. If you want that clip to be a much faster zoom and much more aggressive, you go to the start of the clip, hit that keyframe again, move slightly forward on the clip, maybe make that 3 for instance. Now as you can see, I'm out of frame. So what you can do is you can actually move the position. The position will move you left and right and up and down. So we're going to put that there like that. Now that we've done that, we're going to have an aggressive jump in the zoom, and it's also going to pan upwards to my face.
Things will not work except for your viewfinder.
All you need to remember is there's keyframes for every function along here. If you select your clip, you can adjust the pitch. You can adjust the yaw. So if your frame isn't quite straight, you can fix it that way. You can adjust the rotation. You can put these all back to 0 when you want. The bonus of these, of course, is you can keyframe it as well. So I'll show you a rotation version of me keyframing it. So you go to the start of the clip, or wherever you want on the clip. It can be here, for instance. Click on rotation angle there. That's where its starting point is. Go to here, which is where its end point is. So when you move this thing, it'll automatically create a keyframe, like so. So if you go back and press play,
will not work except for your viewfinder, because
that covers the video portion of this. But now we're going to go into audio. And in audio, you've got volume control, which you can keyframe as well. So for instance, if you've got 2 clips here and the first clip's a bit quiet, you can turn the volume up. If you select it, of course, you turn the volume up on that clip. But
there's a reason for that.
It's very loud, of course. You go back to 0. Of course, you can keyframe that as well using this button here. So for instance, if your audio starts off quiet and gets louder, and you want to boost that quiet bit, you can just keyframe just the quiet bit and just boost the volume on that. So let's go back to video. Now to get rid of this whole bar, you click on the Inspector tab again and it disappears. And we go back to our preview windows. As I said, this first window is your cut windows. You can scroll as much as you want, cut whatever you like. Sorry. Cut whatever you like and then drag it down into timeline. And of course you can have multiple audio and multiple videos. Now I'll show you how this works for your multiple videos. Let's cut a small clip here. We'll drag it down. Now you've got another audio clip, another video clip here. Now if you need to see this whole timeline, you can hit this bar here and it can zoom it in and out so you can see the whole timeline of our clips. You can bring that down lower. You can see the first 2 clips there with their audio and the new clip here. If you want another clip, you can actually go above that one as well. And now we've got audio. As I said, you can drag them wherever you want. So now we've got multiple videos and multiple audio timelines. But for the sake of this tutorial, I suggest at the start you just put them all in a row. So just cut your video how you want to cut it, put them in order down here how you want it, and once you've done that, you can clean it up and fix it and so on. Before we go to the color tab, I'm going to show you how to fade volume in and fade volume out, and also fade video in and out. So you go to this bar here for your volume, so we'll just drag that up a little bit so we can see that. And then we're going to drag this bar down here and you can see all the waveform of your video. Now I'm going to show you how to fade out the audio. So then you click here like this, just click that bar. If you grab that little bar here, see the little tag, if you pull that to the left, that will make your audio fade out. So if you play it, you'll hear the difference.
Bends light. So as the light comes in, it bends it. So you can set your focus in a certain part of your image and you can bend it around to get the exact image you want.
It gives you a slow fade, but if you click on this again, you see this little circle here, you can select that and you can bend it. It gives you a much nicer fade.
It bends light. So as the light comes in, it bends it. So you can set your focus in a certain part of your image and you can bend it around to get the exact image.
Now that fades your audio, so if you scroll up, using the scroll bar on the side here, actually, if you scroll up, but first we'll get this bar here and we'll bring that audio down so you can see what you're doing. You can do the same thing with your video, so you can literally just drag your video across.
So as the light comes in, it bends it. So you can set your focus in a certain part of your image and you can bend it around to get the exact image.
That's how you fade your audio and your video. You can also adjust your video's volume just by going to the middle here and you see the two arrows appear. You can literally bring the whole audio down if you think it's a bit loud.
But this is where this is different to a normal 15.
But your fade settings will still stay in place. Let's go back to the start of the clip. Now select the first clip and let's go color. It's a color tab down here. Now you do have a few functions in here which are really handy. So you've got your color wheels on the side here. If you haven't got your color wheels, you select that wheel just here, for instance. So you've got all these different other things, but I tend to work in the color wheels. You select that. And your contrast is up here. I tend to just drag the contrast to the right a bit to give it a bit more depth in your image. If you go from normal to a bit of contrast. This image is quite yellow. So just here is a eyedropper. And I know for a fact that that top I'm wearing, that's actually a white top, that logo. So I'm going to click the eyedropper and then I'm going to click the white. And then we've automatically white balanced our image straight away. Now if it's a bit dark like this one, you can bring the shadows up, which is down here. But don't do it too much because you'll introduce noise. But overall exposure is this one here, which brings your exposure up, of course. I tend to not mess with those three much at all. They're pretty good usually where they are. I usually just mess around with the offset, which is your exposure. Sometimes I do the gain just to bring a bit more light into it. And your highlights here, the only thing I don't like about Davinci is their highlights. It does a bit of adjustment, but if you have something that's a little bit blown out, you'll find that it just flattens your image. It doesn't really do much for your highlights at all. It helps on this type of video where I haven't got much of a background, but in most videos it's almost non-existent. I find that bringing the shadows down and the exposure up fixes the issue generally anyway. If it's completely blown out, you can't fix it, but if it's right on the edge, you can usually bring it back. Of course, you've got your saturation here, which you can left click and you hold, and you can drag backwards and forwards. All these settings are adjusted by clicking the left click on your mouse and holding. So if you want to click on your shadows here, you can click and manually change it, or you can click and drag. I tend to click and drag because it's quicker. So put this one back to 50 and press enter. Get you back to the start. Now I'm not going to go over every single dial and wheel that's in this thing and every slider because it could go forever. It's more involved, but this is a beginner's guide, so I'm going to give you what you need to get your video edited and done. Now if your video is a bit soft, you can click on the radius tab here and you can drag this down and it can sharpen it. Now I'm going to go extreme so you can see what it does. You can also blur it, of course. So if you want something blurry, you can blur it down. I find that going below with people going below 46 introduces too much false artifacts. So 46, 47 is good enough. Now if you want to zoom in on that thing and have a look, you can put your mouse over it and just scroll on it and see how sharp it is and how it isn't. See, as you bring the sharpness down to 42, you can see the background's getting a lot of horrible things in it as well. So how I would sharpen this particular video, you start at 50 where it normally is, and you scroll down until the background starts to look bad. And in this case, I just do 44, and you can scroll back out again. And if you press play on the space bar,
there's a reason for that. The reason is
your footage looks nicer. Now if you scroll ahead on this bar up here, you'll see that it goes to the next clip, which looks completely different. As you can see, there's a massive difference. Now if you go back into the edit tab, this is something that took me a while to learn. It took me a few searches on YouTube to find this out a long time ago. So I'm going to share it with you now because it'll make your life a lot easier. So you click on that first clip, as you can see from the color wheel. When you're in the color tab, the same clip is in the same spot. So if you put it here, for instance, and go back into the color wheel, you'll find that that's in exactly the same spot and back to edit. So what you do is you go back to your first clip, you go edit, and you go copy. And how you select all these clips, you just click and hold your mouse like this and create a box and go along. Don't select that first clip. And then go edit, paste attributes. Now for this video, I'm going to do everything, but if you didn't want to paste any crops or zooms or scaling or whatever opacity changes, you untick those boxes. Click apply. Now when you press play,
particular lenses do very specific things. Will not work except for your viewfinder.
All the settings you did in the color tab are now adjusted for all your other videos as well. So you've color corrected one and they're all the same. As I scroll through, you see there's no color difference. Especially since I filmed this in a controlled environment where I had control of the light anyway. If you have control of the light, it's perfect. If you don't have control of the light, you might see some discrepancies, but you can then go back into individual tabs and adjust them to match in the color tab. Now I'm going to show you how to add text to your video. Now we're going to talk about effects that are on the left hand side here. If it doesn't look like this, it's because they may be expanded already. If you can't see this panel on the left, you go up to Workspace, Show Panel in Workspace, click on Effects and Media Pool. You want to make sure that that's your media pool there. Make sure they're ticked. Now over here you've got a whole bunch of effects. Now you might find they're already open, but if not, you scroll down to Titles. Click on Titles. I suggest using Text Plus. And all you do is you click it and drag it onto your timeline. And you'll see
keep in mind
that it's on top of your video. So here's your title. So you click it, go back up to the Inspector tab, and you can customize your title. You can make that capitals, of course. If you click on the font over here, you can also change the font. I quite like Montserrat. That's my favorite one for this kind of video. So let me see if I can find it. That one there. Whoop, I've lost it. There it is. That's a video I like. You can change the color to yellow or green or any color you like. What I like about this though is that if you hold the mouse at the start of your clip, you've got a write on function. So it can write on and write off if you wanted to. So if you're going to start it here, you would turn that all the way off. Click the keyframe. Scroll about halfway through maybe. And then drag it all the way to the end. If you go back to the start, this is what it does.
Keep in mind, this is a 100% manual.
So it can write that text for you. Now if you want to write that faster, obviously you would scroll in a smaller amount so it comes on quicker. And of course you can do the same thing to get rid of it. You can create another keyframe,
manual
say here, and it can go to the end and you can have it right off. So now when you watch it, it does this.
Keep in mind, this is a 100% manual setup. Now keep in mind this.
Me having a blooper there. Now that you've got your text, it might be perfect. It might be exactly what you want. You can right click on it, go copy, scroll forward a little bit, right click and go paste. And now you have that test twice. So now you've got your font style and the way it writes on perfect, exactly how you like. You can duplicate it and move it around wherever you want. And of course you can individually, you double click on it, it opens up Inspector again, and you can individually change it to something else. For instance. So now you've got something else here, and you've got test there. And something else will scroll on just like the other one.
But they are pretty cool, and I'll explain what.
And it will
null and void, but
it'll scroll on, of course, as I said, and it'll scroll off just like the other one does. And you can, of course, edit each one of these individually. Now, if you want to delete one of these clips and you hit delete, there's two functions. If you select that clip and you think that's not the clip I want in here, and you hit delete, it'll move your whole timeline to the left. Like that. And that's fine if you're just doing a cut, but if you've got all these text boxes and effects and other images on top of your video and so on, doing their thing, you don't want your whole timeline to shift to the left. So if you need to remove a clip, you just select it with the left mouse, right click, and go delete selected. And that will just delete that clip. And then you can move your other clips around by highlighting them like I showed you before. You can drag the whole lot forward. You can also do that with your audio and drag that where you want, and so on. And you can move your whole clip around to make it exactly how you want to. And if you wanted another video on top of this video, or an image, for instance, I've got an image here, I'm just going to drag that into the timeline. If you want that image there, for instance, we'll make it go for, I know, a few seconds. And we'll drag it down here like so. Now, as you can see, it doesn't fill the frame properly because it's an image that's been taken on a different aspect ratio. So you click on that file, click on your image. And if you need to get closer in, as I said, you can just hit the zoom button here and drag it across, which is this dial here, positive and negative there. If you want to get closer in, you can look at it like that. And you go inspector again, and you can just click zoom and fill the frame. Now that's not keyframe, so that'll just be the size of it.
And what it does is when you're focusing on things, it actually...
and it sits on top of your video. Now I'm going to show you how to export this video. Once you're finished and you're happy with your video and you've got it exactly how you want, you click on the Deliver tab down the bottom. Now up the top here, you can scroll down here and see all your settings if you want to. First, give it a title. I'm going to call this Test. Click on Browse. By clicking Save, you're just basically saying where you want to put it. Now you can scroll down here and you can check your audio. You can change the codec if you want to whatever you like, whatever makes you happy. Mine's usually on H.264. QuickTime, you can change that to whatever you want as well. I quite like QuickTime, so I'll leave it there. Encoder, I'll leave on Auto. This here is where you can change your size. I leave mine at 1920 by 1080 generally, but you can change it to whatever you want. As you can see, you've got a few options there. Frame rate is the original frame rate of your video. Here's a really good section here. If you just want to see how good your quality is, how good your video is, you can select low quality, render it out and have a look. It's a quick render. We can do high quality, medium, low, or best. I just set mine to best. But if you want to keep your file size down a bit, go to high quality. It drops the file size down a fair bit, and you can upload directly to YouTube without having to compress it later. Everything else I don't touch. Now once you've got those settings how you want it, you click on Add to Render Queue, and it'll go over here. And you can add as many clips as you want to that render queue, but I tend to do them one at a time just because I like to do it that way. You click Render All, and that will render that clip out. And as you can see, it's rendering it out. It's not that big a clip, so it won't take long. And we're done. Now, if you only want to render out part of that video, you literally can drag the slider to here, and drag the slider to here, and it's only going to render out the bit that's not shaded. If you want to render the whole video, you just remember click and hold, everything's click and hold. Went a bit far there. Now there are some features that are in the studio version that aren't in the free version. If you want to purchase the studio version, the link is also in the description below. Keep in mind that once you purchase that version, it is yours forever. You get free upgrades for the life of you using that software. So it's not like you have to pay a subscription or you have to pay ongoing yearly. It's just one-off cost and that's it. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you comment below. You can check out another Davinci tutorial above, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.